Dutch-based TV company Endemol is no stranger to controversial TV, having produced shows like Big Brother and Fear Factor for Dutch audiences before selling the licenses internationally, resulting in many countries across the world having their own versions of these shows. There is one Endemol broadcast that never left the Netherlands though, although its controversy certainly did. 2007's De Groot Donor Show was one program that Endemol had no intention of ever trying again. So why is that? Well, De Groot Donor Show means the Great Donor Show. It would be a one-time broadcast where contestants would compete for a very special prize, one that no other game show could match. These contestants weren't competing for a car, or a holiday, or $1 million, but a kidney donation. Yes, the show centered around Lisa, a terminally ill woman who was giving away a kidney to whoever she thought was most deserving of it. Seems a bit stingy to only have one winner when you have 2 kidneys. As a matter of fact, you have a whole heap of organs that are gonna go.
Technically speaking, you could live just fine off of 1 kidney. I do remember reading somewhere, or I think my a friend who does medicine told me that if you do end up living your life with 1 kidney, you get tired very easily. Very easily and very quickly. Can you live? Yeah, but you're not going to have nearly as much energy as you used to when you had 2 kidneys, because your body pretty much can only filter out blood half as quickly now, and that makes you really tired.
To waste, not just the 1 kidney. I mean, you might as well make a game show for each of them, no? Before the show's broadcast, the Great Donor Show presented 25 contestants to the public. Each of them was in need of a kidney transplant, and each had the usual game show sob story. You know, wow, nobody loved me as a kid, and now I have renal failure. I am literally dying, boo-hoo. And then the public was given a phone number to which they could send a text to Lisa in support of their favored kidney needer. The proceeds from these text messages would then be donated to the Dutch Kidney Foundation. A nice touch, but it wasn't enough to stem the tide of controversy surrounding the premise of the show. The Great Donor Show made headlines around the world, with critics slamming its decision to publicize an organ transplant as part of a reality TV show, claiming it was a cynical and unethical attempt to profit off of people's misery. The international backlash put so much pressure on the Dutch government that they tried to have the show banned before it could air. You see, the Netherlands at the time had quite a problem with organ donations, having one of the lowest donor rates in all of Europe. Every year, around 350 people in the country died because they didn't receive an organ.
If the government tried to ban it,
paired with the fact that the show
why
was
didn't
receiving
it?
negative attention all over the world, was a source of embarrassment for Dutch politicians, and a lot of them hopped on board with criticizing the show. Even the Dutch Prime Minister said he didn't want the show to go live and that the controversial program did not benefit the image of the Netherlands abroad. But I mean, like, isn't that kind of your job, mate? A bit silly to say a TV show is making your country look bad when you're literally in charge of that country. Some in government agreed with this point, although not really in the same spirit. More like, yeah, we are the ones in charge of this country. Let's just ban the show.
I agree.
Certainly, this means they were willing for the Dutch Kidney Foundation to lose out on any of the money that could have been raised through texting the show, and also for the potential winner to lose out on the donation, all to avoid a bad look. But while the show may have been tasteless and morally
money, so that's why they didn't go through with it, huh?
The government could do about it. So what happened on the Great Donor Show? Who won, and when did Lisa kick the bucket so they could collect their prize? Well, when the show went live on the 1st of June 2007, the 25 contestants had been whittled down to just 3: Vincent, Charlotte, and Esther Claire. 1.2 million Dutch people watched on as the contestants gave their final appeals, and the...
If you were a fan of the show and you were actively watching it back when it was on air in 2007, does that make you just as bad of a person? Kind of like Hunger Games. Like the Hunger Games scenario. If you were watching people compete for their lives, and you're watching on the sidelines or whatever, through your TV, like live or whatever, does that make you just as bad of a person? The moral dilemma? Kind of like Squid Game. Squid Game, Hunger Games, that type of stuff. Me, I would probably say I would probably say it does make you look bad because it's showing other people that you are interested in something like this. But I wouldn't say it makes you nearly as bad as the people who are running it. Still bad though. Probably should go watch something else.
Public was given their last chance
My Little
to
Pony or
advise
something.
Lisa through text messages. At the climax of the show, Lisa finally had to make her decision. Out of the 3 contestants, she would first tell one that they were not getting her kidney before revealing the winner to the remaining 2. Standard reality TV show setup. Lisa apologetically eliminates Esther Claire, telling her she's already had a good life. So they just told this woman straight to her face she wasn't getting her life-saving medical treatment and waved it off with, "You've had a good run." Fantastic TV moment. Just before Lisa can announce the winner, the host stops the whole thing and the lights come on. He tells the audience why the show is taking place, reminding them of the shocking state of organ donation in the country and that the 1,400 people
Am I a brony?
registered
No.
for a transplant have slim chance of seeing one. He then says they can change this and makes an appeal to the audience to sign a donor form before dropping an absolute bombshell. He reveals that they will not be giving away a kidney on TV. In fact, Lisa was not terminally ill after all. She was merely an actor. If you think that's fucked up, wait till you hear.
Are you fucking kidding me?
This. Unlike Lisa, the contestants were not actors. They really needed a kidney and would now not be getting one because the show was just a hoax. Thankfully, they were in on it. They knew the whole time the show would not be giving them a kidney, but went along with it in support of the show's message. 2 days after the show's airing, Dutch news reported that 50,000 people had requested a donor form be sent to them. The show's shock reveal had a big impact on its audience and left a lot of its very vocal critics looking rather silly. Some members of the Dutch government were forced to praise how the show used its hugely negative attention to positive effect. Some were not quite as willing to admit they'd been had though, with the Dutch health ministry saying, "This is not the proper way to get more donors." Well, show us how it's done, so. Of course they weren't able to, a fact that was brought up almost a year later when the show won an award for Dutch TV Moment of the Year for its bombshell climax. While accepting the award, the network's chairperson said, "The show was aired in June. Today is January. Dutch politicians promised to put donor shortage on their agenda. We're still waiting for a reaction."
So it didn't do much then. You guys are still waiting in January from June with $50,000 forms. Dude, if I was so... Dude, this whole situation just got so messy from like 0 to 100, man. Oh my god. Like, the donor was fake, but the people that needed it actually needed it. And for some reason, dude, but why would you go through with something like this, man? Like, I get you're trying to raise awareness, but like, this whole thing was just for money. It is genuinely so fucked up how far people will go to gaslight people for money, disguised as a good cause. Do you guys remember what I said in like a couple of streams ago when I said that the road to hell was paved with good intentions? This applies here. You want to raise awareness for the lack of organ transplants in the Netherlands, but the way you do it is so beyond fucked up. You gaslit millions of people around the world, 1.2 million viewers, and you only got 50,000 forms. So I am presuming the other like 1.1-ish million people are just straight up pissed off. If it makes you feel any better, the 3 fake contestants who actually needed kidneys did get kidneys and survived. Okay, well that does make me feel a little bit better. Okay, well you know what? God bless them that they got the kidneys that they needed to, you know, be alive. But dude, there has to have been a much better way of raising awareness. But then, but then this was also 2007. Shit.
So they turned a show that was an embarrassment to politicians into a show that was a humiliation to politicians. Not only had they been publicly fooled, but exposed for caring more about how something might look to an international audience than what the actual reality was for their citizens. They basically lambasted a publicity stunt that did more to combat the donor situation than they themselves were doing, and then looked rather silly when it was all revealed. An ironic twist that adds a sweet poetic justice to the hoax that they could have avoided by just keeping their mouths shut. So, well over a decade later, what was the aftermath? Well, as of 2020, Vincent, Charlotte, and Esther Claire are all still alive. Also, as of 2020, Dutch citizens above the age of 18 are automatically added to the donor register, meaning you have to opt out of becoming an organ donor rather than opting in, which is pretty much the most the government can do to ensure the country has as much donors as possible. The people must be going into their graves like empty tubes of toothpaste. So what do you think of the Great Donor Show? Tasteless or genius? It's obviously still regarded as a controversial show, and despite Endemol selling creations like Deal or No Deal to over 75 countries,
there's a reason why this show did not get recreated in other parts of the world. In general, I think the world agrees that this concept and this show is a bad idea. Just because this one instance was okay and turned out good for the 3 people that needed kidneys does not mean that you should recreate this idea again. Thank God this is... Imagine if they did this shit with like hearts or like a lung. I don't even want to begin to imagine the dumpster fire that show would that show would receive.